going to use our Tylose powder and only taking a small amount of fondant. This is important because if you mix the Tylose with a massive piece of fondant, say something this big, you're not going to be able to work through it quick enough and it's going to get rock solid and you're just going to get frustrated. It's not going to be workable and easy to use. So I put about half a teaspoon, maybe just a little bit less, because the more humidity you have in the air, the softer your fondant is. So we want really tough gum paste. And I always like to add more Tylose than you're supposed to. Work it through. Now we're going to start our flowers. Take your board that has the little hole. I'm using the big hole. Okay, that was so wrong. I'm using the larger, what would you call it? It's a hole. Impression. I'm using the larger impression here. I'm using this one. So I'm going to push it in. I have a little bit of corn flour just to stop my roller from sticking, and work it through. You don't need it to be paper thin, but it needs to be about 1 millimeter thick. Also, so it'll look like that. Turn it over so the little nubby bit is at the top. Take your small cutter. This is actually just out of a Wilton kit. It's just a little star cutter. I like to use it for many different flowers. Make sure all the edges are sharp. This is the tricky part. So you're going to need your pointy tool or your bamboo skewer. I like to load up my fingers with a whole heap of corn flour so that it doesn't stick, and also put corn flour on the end of your tool. I'm going to hold the flour between my thumb and my forefinger and rest the petal so it's over my finger. I'm going to use this pointy tool, and I'm going to put the point to the middle of the tool, the middle of the flower. There's a little hole there to make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. And I'm not going to press in the middle of the petal. I'm going to press just on the outside of the petal and twisting, or should I say rolling my thumb down. I'm actually twisting the tool. I'm going to use that rolling motion to thin out the petal, so it's going to widen. I don't want them lengthened, I want them widened. So let's see how we go. And then do it again. You should get a little groove or an impression because you're not doing the middle, you're just doing the edges. And that's the first step. So you can see the detail in here. Now on the very tips, just here where the pointy bit is, we're going to cut a small triangle out on each of the petals. So taking your tiny little scissors, and I mean a tiny little triangle, and go around and cut the little triangles out. Okay, so it should look something like this. You're going to take your wire, dip a tiny little piece into your edible glue and just tap off the excess. Put it straight down the middle and feed it through. Sometimes I find twirling it works best. And you want to stop when the brown tape is no longer visible. And then just pinch and twirl the bottom so that it's secure. This is the part where you can bring your petals in to make it closed, or bring your petals out. To open it up. Okay, so push your wire down through the center. Bring the top of the flower up just to the top where the brown disappears and twirl it around to adhere it to your wire. And this is the part where you can manipulate your petals. Whoops, we've just had a blowout. And this one's going to be semi-closed. And continue on until you have the desired amount of flowers that you need. So your end result. Okie dokie. So I'm taking a piece of paper just so that my petal dust doesn't go all over the place. And I have got rose pink. You can use any color you like. If I'm making white cherry blossoms, I'll use a tiny little bit of brown. If I'm making a hot pink, I'll use the rose and paint the whole stamen. But what we're doing is we're just taking a little bit onto our paintbrush, dabbing off all the excess, and we're just tipping, running the brush along the tips of the stamens, making sure not to get any on the petals. And continue on for the rest of them. Now if I was doing the hot pink, I would paint the whole stamen. Once you've finished dusting the tip of your stamens, again, put a little bit of pink onto your brush, and we are going to lightly dab underneath the stamens onto the petals, but we're not bringing them the whole way out. We just want to highlight and give it a little bit of dimension to the center. So can you see that? The dust hasn't touched the outer of the petals, it's just at the bottom of the stamens to the center part of the stem, the petals. Just adds a little bit more depth and highlight, especially when it's on a cake and you've got people looking closely at it. So that is my tutorial, guys. Thank you very much for watching. The finished product should look something similar to these. And they shouldn't take too long once you've mastered.